Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Drama is Life. So come on in the room as we discuss your mental health on this episode and every episode. And the whole purpose of us being here is to increase mental wellness and awareness in our community, particularly in our African American and faith based communities. So it's so great that this month is the month that it is, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, welcome as we're going to talk tonight about that and the stigmas that come along with mental health. So, hello, I am your host, Theresa White. I am a licensed mental health counselor, registered drama therapist, certified addiction counselor, and trauma professional located in Terre Haute, Indiana. I'm the CEO of In Time Creative Counseling Services. So, if you want to know more about drama therapy and what we can offer, because it absolutely is phenomenal and one of the best ways to be able to heal effectively and faster. But we'll talk about that in another episode. So come on in the room as we talk about you. Come on in the room as we talk about you. Come on in the room as we talk about you. Come on in the room, come on in the room, come on in the room. Come on in the room as we talk about you. And again, I'm not, that's not our just make up songs because that's what we do as a drama and art professional. Love, love, love the arts. So, yeah, excuse me that I just make up songs, but come on in the room as we talk about mental awareness. And I want to know, do you still got stigmas? And we're going to talk tonight about what the stigmas are. Because I think sometimes, even though, and even me as a mental health professional, I have had to look at myself in a lot of things with regards to stigmas. Sometimes you have stigmas in some areas that you don't have them in others. And so we're going to have that conversation tonight because May is, as you probably have seen in emails and different things like that. If you have not, that's okay too, because we're going to talk about it tonight as we're going to talk about it for the rest of the month and every other time we get a chance to talk about it. So if you have not already, hit like, subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you download our podcast, Drama is Life, parentheses DIL, on Spotify. And also that you share. Don't just take this information for yourself, but share with others so that they can also be able to get this information and hopefully be better for it. That's the whole point, right? So I want to just talk about a few myths. There's so many different ones, but I want to have a conversation about just a couple of them with regards to mental health and therapy. So I want to ask a question to you. So feel free to um, give me a yes or no in our comments. If you are on a platform, they can actually comment back. I still would love to hear your feedback. We welcome questions. We welcome conversations during our when we go live and when we do our podcast. So, if you're listening to this or watching the replay, or you're looking at this or listening to this on our podcast, still feel free to reach out to us at info@intimeccs.com. And that's INTIMECCS.com. Where we can get your questions, comments, so we can have that feedback. I love to have dialogue about mental health because that's the whole point about breaking that awareness. So, one of the things that I wanted to say is, you ever heard those statements? You probably still, can see some TikTok videos or YouTube or Instagram or wherever you stream and have social media. But there are still what we call comedy skits and different things like that when it talks about mental health, period. And it helps people to be able to see the stigmas that people may still have. And so one of them is that mental health or mental illness is not real. It's in your head. It's all in the person's head. Whoever is saying that they have a mental illness or that they are not having the best day, they are not feeling like themselves. So somebody comes to you and they're like, I don't really feel like myself, Theresa. I can't really explain it any better than that. I know how I usually feel. I know what the usual me is. And I've not been me for a little bit or maybe for a while. It's not just been a day. Sometimes you can wake up and kind of have what we call an off day, right? And that's common that we can have off days and different things that can kind of shift our what I call homeostasis emotionally, of our equilibrium, however you want to word that. But there are times where that lingers. The same way that if, and I don't want to be vulgar, but I'm gonna get this disclaimer right now. I'm gonna use this analogy because people can typically relate to physical body analogies. So you got to go to the bathroom and you have to go and you drink a lot of water, or maybe you just really have been to the bathroom a lot for one day. You may just think that's, I usually don't go to the bathroom that often. That's a lot, whether it's number one or number two. But with that, you may say, okay, one day doesn't really rock the boat. It doesn't really bring an alarm to your system. It doesn't really do much, but just kind of make you notice it like, oh man, I've been to the bathroom a lot today. It's when that one instance or that one day begins to linger past. You don't just have one off day, you have several. And when you have several, somebody may come to you and say, you know what, and I'm going to use myself, you know what, Theresa, I absolutely just do not feel myself. And the way somebody responds gives you a hint and a huge, well, I won't say a hint, a huge clue as to how they see mental illness, how they see mental wellness as well, how they look at health in general. So it may just be, oh, it's just all in your head. Okay, well, let's talk about that myth. So it's just all in your head. Well, if it's in my head controls my body. The same way when you look at medically, there's a lot of things that happen in the brain that affects the natural body. Somebody can go to the doctor, and I've had people have this experience where somebody may say, the doctor may look and say, physically, there's nothing we can see going on. But the person may say, I am having panic attacks. I can't breathe. I'm having shortness of breath at times. I am feeling very scared out of nowhere. Or even more on the physical side, maybe they're saying there's no reason why this person is not able to walk yet. It just may be all in their head. So does that mean you just say, oh, well, no big deal. It's just all in their head? No, because it's letting you know that even if it's in their head is affecting their entire life. So even if somebody is saying, I have been feeling off for weeks, for days, and it's not changing. No matter what I'm doing, it's not shifting. I've tried to talk to friends. I've tried to watch movies, find your list of things to do, right? Or things that you may have done. And this off feeling that I just don't feel like myself is not really changing. And so somebody saying it's just all in your head is like, well, then how do I address the issue that's in my head? Because that's the next question. But a lot of times that typically closes the door. People don't really respond to, oh, what's this all in my head? Okay. Because then that's really communicating that you're making this up. It's not real. So how I feel isn't real. And in some cases, a feeling may not be truth. So let me clarify that. Because you feel something doesn't mean that it's true, but it absolutely still is valid. So to invalidate and say, well, how you feel, Theresa, is just all in your head. It's not really true. No, it is true. I do feel this way. But it may not be based in the fact that that's true. I may feel like nobody likes me. But that has absolutely affected my life. So would you be like, that's just all in your head? It may be, but then how do we address it? And so that's what we have to get to when people have those myths or those responses. This is all in your head. And that communicates to the person who's actually coming to someone to talk about their issue or their concern, trying to really ask for help, is really saying, just move on past that. You're not really important enough for me or this concern is not really important enough for me to dig a little deeper. And so a lot of times people, okay, they just shut the door, shut down, don't say anything else about it. And then they just deal with it internally. And so they do what we call suffering in silence. And so instead of SOS, it's SIS, right? Instead of I'm trying to ask for help, but then you just shut me down. So then I'm suffering in silence. And so that's a huge issue when people have stigmas about mental health. And with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, and every day should be Mental Health Awareness Month, because you don't just have mental health issues in one month of the year. If you did, again, it would be like, okay, that was just a really bad month, and you would shift from it until it becomes a common occurrence. If every May I got an issue, then I would begin to notice that. And so I just want to, again, just kind of talk a little bit about some of these, what we call, that was one myth, right? That it's just all in your head. I'll give you another one before I give you some warning signs. Because last month we were talking about stress warning signs. So we should have a good amount under our belt to know what that is. If you missed that, go back and download those episodes on our podcast, and you can listen to those episodes about stress, because April is a stress awareness month. So another one is we don't get depressed. And so I've seen some TikTok videos, and I've seen different, and it may not be TikTok, I don't want to say TikTok, but I've seen videos online that says that, that kind of does a joke out of how people respond. And so somebody's like, Mom or Dad, I really feel depressed. You better go depress them dishes. It's how I've seen some responses. You better go depress that room. And so it's like, so what does that mean? Does that mean that I don't? So that means go do some work, and that's going to help me when I say I feel depressed. And so again, that communicates whether there's a stigma in the family or a stigma with this person that you're talking to. Do I really believe that this is real? Or that's, again, a throw off, an invalidation of this person expressing that they feel that way, instead of saying, okay, well, what's making you feel that way? What's making you feel like you're depressed? Maybe because I haven't slept at all. I've been up for days, or I've been asleep for days. I've not slept this long since I was an infant. And now I'm sleeping 12, 13 hours, 14 hours a day. No one should be sleeping that much. You shouldn't be sleeping past 12, 13 hours if you're not, again, a toddler, unless you're a young child, right? So when sleep becomes excessive, then people begin to notice, I am tired all the time. And they recognize that. So they're communicating that need. But when they communicate that, how are we responding? That lets us know whether we still have stigmas. If I laugh it off or just be like, oh, okay. Or even if it is, I don't know how to handle that. Because maybe, again, I don't know what depression looks like. I'm not a therapist for some people, right? Of course, not talking about myself. But with that, when people say, well, we don't get depressed. Who's we? Who is we? Because every nationality, every generation, from youth to adult, every gender has had someone diagnosed, or even not even diagnosed, but people who are diagnosed with depression, and those who are undiagnosed. Depression shows up, can show up everywhere. So who's we? And so again, it's that there's a barrier around our family, around our culture, around we don't get anxious. We don't commit suicide. We don't get suicidal. We don't. And so that we don't then blocks people out, and then they don't have a conversation with you any longer, any further. And that becomes an issue. And so it's really important that people are not just throwing off when a loved one is coming to you and sharing a concern. The awareness is that we know, and if you haven't known by now, with all the, let me give, with all the different issues that are going on in the world, you can't pull up now, unfortunately, you cannot pull up a news report, a newsletter, or a news flash, radio station, all of those things, without seeing some type of mental health crisis. People are doing all types of things. And the issue is, you're like, what's going on? Right? Because then people are starting to say, did anybody catch it? Did anybody notice it? And then they come and they look at mental health professionals and say, did you know? But the question is, are there still stigmas in the community? Are there still barriers and blocks to people even believing that mental illness is present? That there's a mental or emotional issue or concern or deficit that needs to be addressed? It doesn't always mean that there's a diagnosable disorder, because that can also be a myth. that if I go and see a doctor, that means they're gonna diagnose me with something. Not necessarily. Some doctors are like, no, I don't. Again, as I said, it may not be anything that I can diagnose. It may be a one-time occurrence. But generally, if somebody is taking it, generally, if someone has come to the doctor, that means it's beyond the one-time occurrence. As I said before, if it's a one-day thing, we may just say, okay, this was a one-day thing that I went to the bathroom a few times. It was a one-day thing that I felt like I just didn't feel like myself. It's when it becomes cyclical, and that means cycle, right? It keeps coming back, or it's lingering, and it's affecting my life. That's when we come to a doctor. I'm having a headache, and I've been having one for a week. That's not common. And we like to use the word normal. And we say, well, what's normal anymore? But that actually is what we call common, which means in common unity. In the community, there is a cultural norm that there should be a foundation of health, that headaches are not lasting an entire week. That's not normal. And people, what is that? So it really is something to go say, I need to go see a doctor. I need to go see a professional that specializes in head pain, body pain, that has a degree or some lingering or extensive education in this area. I need to go talk to somebody who knows what's going on. But a lot of times people, we hold it in. As I talked about with HALT, with our stress triggers. Sometimes, of course, anger, as we talked about last episode, can be something that we see. It's very evident. And so when we talk about people who have suicidal thoughts, that's more evident. But sometimes somebody can have things that is not evident. If they don't verbalize it to you, they can put on a really good face. And a lot of people are walking around here putting on a really good face, putting on a face that says, I'm okay. How you okay, Theresa? I'm good. I'm good. And can smile really well. And we talked about that in drama therapy, right? I can put on my face, right? And that, of course, put on my face. I can cover up what's really going on underneath. If I really feel dark and depressed, you won't know it because I'm going to put that smile on. And you see in commercials and things like that. So it's absolutely present. With multiple school shootings happening, that is not normal, right? So we can absolutely use that word. It's not normal to grab a gun and go shoot up a school or a mall, to shoot a number of people who had nothing to do, who hasn't done anything to you, to the person. That's not normal. And is that becoming more common? Unfortunately, it is, and it should not be. That's letting you know that mental health or mental illness has hit a huge, huge high. And again, we know that COVID has taken place, but I think COVID was just a nice shaking of what we call what I call the mental health volcano. The lava has already been there. It's been there for a while. It's always been hot. It's always been dangerous. It's always just been sitting there. But it doesn't bother anybody. We don't mind walking around volcanoes as long as it's not a danger of erupting. We'll walk by it, drive it, take pictures. But it's when something begins to shake it that's when we can't be around it, because if it shakes too much, there's going to be an eruption. And I believe that COVID was just a final shaking of a lot of people that was already sitting with all this stuff packed down. And so now we're seeing an explosion of people's emotional imbalance, their mental imbalance. It has shaken people to their core. I mean, again, with that analogy of a volcano. So I'm going to give a few statistics, and then I want you to really think about these. And so when we talk about mental health and mental wellness, mental illness, suicide is the leading cause of death among African Americans ages 15 to 24. So 15-year-olds, that's the leading cause of how they die. They're not dying because they're in a car accident, because they was driving reckless. No. The one of the main reasons why there's the death toll is so high with that age is because they're taking their lives. That they're not alarming. So we can, well, we don't. Yes, clearly there's a, this is a we who 15 to 24-year-olds, that's just there. And again, that's not the only age. Untreated mental illness can make our culture more vulnerable to substance use, homelessness, incarceration, and homicide. Not only suicide, but we know those things, right? Because we are seeing so many issues among, again, make you vulnerable to homicide. When there's untreated. So that's why people come and say, did anybody know? Was anybody looking? Did anybody become aware? Well, was there anybody that was reached out, that person reached out to, that was not reciprocated? Was there anyone that did not get the a warm response? Was there anyone that got the press them dishes, or we don't have those problems here, or we don't need therapy, we don't go to therapy, we don't. Okay. And so then what do we do with that? So when we talk about, are there still stigmas, it's really important for you to consider, how do you view therapy? How do you view mental illness? How do you treat someone that has a mental illness? Because that will let you know whether there are still some stigmas, some myths that you have that are not resonated or settled in the truth or reality. There are some things that you may not want to see yet. That's really what a stigma is. A stigma is saying, I don't really want to see the reality of what something is. I really don't want to acknowledge that that is the reality of this thing. And so sometimes people are like, nope, I'm okay. And they hold it. And I say that because drama therapy, especially with the type of therapy that I do, drama therapy and working on trauma, I'm not mispronouncing trauma, the drama therapy, that I work with trauma using drama therapy. And we work on recognizing signals in the body. And there's an absolute way to do that. And it's a careful way to do that, because you can bring up a signal people are not ready necessarily or are able to do just on their own. We can do that in a safe manner. And we can do it in a manner that's safe, and also at the time that the person is ready to do it. Or just throw you into something. And okay, go, sink or swim. No, we want to get you ready for the water, so to speak. Somebody who's getting ready to swim. And so when we have an awareness, when we are willing to look at the reality of what's happening in our culture, in our community, there is absolutely a breakdown of mental and emotional stability. We know cancer and all these other diseases have been running rampant for a minute. And it's not a great thing, not at all. But mental and emotional has been more present than any broken leg, any cancer diagnosis. Those numbers are greater than any physical health numbers. Now, and the issue is that people will go to the physical doctor, a physical physician, or medical physician, and get diagnosed, and that's more acceptable. You're more readily, I'll be willing to go. I have no problem being seen going to the doctor's office. I'm just going to get a physical because it's common, right? It's normal to go get a physical. But I stress it. And if anybody knows me, I've been talking about this for years. There needs to be something called a mental. Just like you go get your physical checkup, how you went to go get your mental checkup every year. It should be a common practice, a normal practice, to go and have a mental or emotional checkup, just to be able to say, if there's nothing to be alarmed about, perfect. But if there are, we can catch it, and it won't linger for years and years and deteriorate someone's life even greater. So the same way you catch a physical, and if somebody is like, oh, we need to watch your blood pressure, come back in next month, or we need to, make sure that you're sleeping well because it's starting to affect, headaches or, whatever it may be, that can be monitored and caught. But I will say sometimes the concern people have is not that they don't believe that they have some imbalances physically or in this case mentally or emotionally. Sometimes people are afraid of what will be found. So sometimes people are afraid to go to the physician because they don't want the physician to say, I know there's some heart problems. Your heart rhythm is not normal. Your blood pressure is not normal, or they don't want those things to be pointed out or acknowledged. But we can't get to healing until you can recognize or acknowledge that there needs to be some healing. So as long as we're ignoring it, so when we talk about those who are in the faith community, when you look at scriptures, those who called out to Christ had to acknowledge that I need you. And the scripture lets us know, and Christ let us know in one of the teachings that he was given, for those who are blind or you don't need, or for those who are sick, need a physician. Those who are not sick don't need a physician. So if you are admitting that you need help, I'm here for it. I'm here, and that's what he said. I'm here for that, and I'm as a mental health professional. I am here for those who say they need the help. We're not here trying to diagnose, because one of the myths that also is present in the mental health community is that if I go see a medical professional, I'm going to automatically be diagnosed. If I go see a mental health professional, I'm going to be diagnosed. That's not the case. That's not the case at all for a lot of people. It's a lot of people that I see that has no medical diagnosis or mental health diagnosis. They're wanting to work on this area of their life. This area of their life is not functioning the way that they want it to. Does that mean that they have a mental illness? Not necessarily. So it depends. So I say that because that's not the case. So sometimes that stigma, that belief can block somebody from seeking the help that they need to get the checkup that they need on their mental and emotional well-being. So I encourage you, if you have not already, it's okay to make an appointment with a mental health professional and a medical professional to be able to make an appointment just to get your yearly checkup. Somebody, what you coming in for? I just want to get a yearly checkup. That's great. Please do so. Take care of yourself, because we are in a day and age where that is gone to the wayside, and everything is about everybody else serving everything else. And sometimes it can get, again, very overwhelming in this world that we live in. And so it's important that we are making sure that we help people help themselves. And if people come to you and they are acknowledging that they have not felt themselves, or they are communicating some emotional issue or concern, please be a healthy person. Please be a safe person that can help them get to the help that they need. If you're not the one, direct them to somebody who can. You know what? That sounds really serious, and I'm not a professional. I'm not equipped to handle that. I absolutely want to be a support for you. So let me help you find somebody that can address that with you. Let me help you find somebody that could absolutely be that person. And let me be if you need me to go with you, I'm willing to do that. But I can't be the one to address it. So it's so much to mental health. But I want for you to really check your own biases, your own beliefs about mental health, about mental wellness, mental illness, therapy, counseling, and all such like, because those could be the barriers if there are some blocks that are following with the myths. They can be some barriers to somebody getting some help, and we want people to be as well as they absolutely want to be and can be. So, with that being said, we will be talking this month about how to take care of your mental health in this month of May. So next week, join us as we get ready to celebrate our mothers. We know Mother's Day is coming up, and our caregivers, our mothers are some of the main caregivers that we have in this world. And so a lot of times their mental health gets thrown to the wayside. right? Because I'm too busy taking care of my children. So we will talk to someone who has taken care of their mental health as well as their child and children. So join us next time with our guest that we will have on our next episode to find out more. You can join us. We are here every week. And so you can download again our episodes at Spotify up under Drama is Life, parentheses DIL. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we hope to have you listen in, watch, and learn again on our next episode. Have a blessed week, you all, and stay well.